Good afternoon. Our first capstone this afternoon is by Mr. Kaden Gallet, and this is his thesis statement. Although chemotherapy and radiation therapy have been the main treatments combating cancer, their limitations in harming the patient long term are cause for evolving treatments such as immunotherapy, hormonal therapy, and targeted therapy to take over in the future for certain cancers. Please welcome Kaden.
October of 2015, my mom was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, a common form of breast cancer that is known to quickly spread throughout the body. She had decided to go see a doctor after discovering an abnormal lump of tissue in her left breast, and the doctor recommended she go get an ultrasound. The ultrasound made the doctors realize that it was most likely cancer, and a following biopsy confirmed it. After meeting with the surgeon, my mom decided to do a lumpectomy, which is a surgery that removes the cancerous tumor and a small bit of surrounding tissue in order to preserve the breast. Prior to the surgery, my mom was sent for an MRI to get a better look at the cancerous tumor, and it was discovered that there was another lump near it, which was also confirmed to be invasive ductal carcinoma. This meant a normal lumpectomy was no longer possible, and a double mastectomy of her breast tissue was required. PET scans thankfully concluded that the cancer had not spread to other parts of her body, but following this, a port was placed into her chest for chemotherapy. My mom had gone through 16 rounds of these chemotherapy drugs and 30 sessions of radiation, and has been on medication to treat symptoms from these treatments ever since. The damage after forcibly caused menopause at 40, bone loss, otherwise known as early stage osteoporosis, severe anxiety, and frequent migraines. Through all the potential damage that chemo and radiation can cause to patients, future advancement should be our focus on trying to fight cancer without causing lifelong damage to the patient wherever possible. Thus follows, although chemotherapy and radiation therapy have been the main treatments combating cancer, their limitations in harming the patient long term are cause for evolving treatments such as immunotherapy, hormonal therapy, and targeted therapy to take over in the future for certain cancers. Cancer is a disease that affects our body cells and disrupts their ability to grow and survive properly. Under regular circumstances, the body has multiple systems in place that regulate this cell division and keep everything in line. When these cells get damaged or become faulty, this system can fail, and this leads into uncontrolled cell division. This rapid cell division over a period of time can begin to form a mass known as a tumor. This is where many forms of cancer begin. However, some cancers do not form tumors and are much harder to treat due to the increased difficulty in not having a set target and limiting treatment options. Some of these cancers include, but are not limited to, leukemia, a blood cancer, myeloma, a plasma cancer, and forms of bone marrow cancers. In many cases, these issues first begin with a genetic mutation that causes your body to send the wrong signal to your cells and cause abnormal behavior. These genetic mutations are caused by daily habits that unknowingly harm our cells, or just environmental factors that we live through day by day. Some of these habits include eating fried foods, smoking, drinking, red meats, a lack of exercise, excessive sun exposure and UV radiation damage, polluted environments, overly stressing, and carrying too much body fat. These habits or living conditions alone are not enough to stop our bodies from being able to keep our cells in check. The sheer scale of the human body and the amount of cells it maintains is what makes it difficult. Our bodies contain anywhere from 30 to 37 trillion cells, and each of these replicate frequently, some on a weekly basis. Even the slightest chance of a cell dividing improperly on this scale can cause concern and can very easily lead into a cell dividing uncontrolled. Even though our body has a natural defense against these problems through using our immune system to locate and identify these cells that divide abnormally and kill them before they become a problem, this process is imperfect, as many cells that have these mutations can slip through the cracks and go unnoticed. If the body does not recognize it in time, the damage may be too much for our body to handle, and in these tumors, the cancer begins. Only around 5 to 10% of all cancers are linked to strictly genetic defects. The remaining 90 to 95% are rooted in these environmental and habitual risks. Some estimates suggest that 35 to 45% of all cancers worldwide are linked to behaviors that can be prevented, such as smoking, improper diet, general inactivity, and excessive exposure to UV rays from the sun. Almost half the blame can be attributed to our bad choices, and the randomness of cancer becomes a little easier to pinpoint. The difficult part in preventing cancer is generally how normal some of these risk factors feel in everyday life, and how easy they are to become a part of our routine. Small decisions caused by laziness, such as skipping a workout or eating the tastier, unhealthy meal, can begin to slowly turn into a habit that increases the risk of cancer. Some of these factors, such as smoking, heavy drinking, excess body fat, and overexposure to the sun, can significantly raise the chances of developing cancer. Others, such as stress or air pollution, can contribute less and are more linked to a gradual, over time, increased risk of cancer. This makes it harder for people to notice their day-to-day impact, and it further reinforces having a well-thought-out and strong foundation for your health. Balancing your nutrition and moderating certain activities are the best forms of prevention, even though you can never fully guarantee cancer will not pop up randomly. Whenever these preventions fail and cancer begins to develop, that is when doctors must step in with treatments in order to stop further spread and eliminate the cancer. This poses a new challenge. Cancer is not just a single disease that only does one thing. Rather, it is a multitude of different diseases that have different characteristics that define them. In general, these fast-dividing cancer cells are very similar to normal cells in our body that also divide quicker, such as hair cells, cells in the stomach lining, and bone marrow. This makes it extremely difficult to target these specific cells without also harming the healthy cells and tissue. This is the biggest and most notable issue with curing cancer. A proper balance between effectively killing cancer cells and collateral damage is hard to find. Radiation therapy and chemotherapy were some of the first major treatments for cancer and still remain widely used today due to how effective they are at killing these cancer cells. Radiation therapy works by using ionizing radiation to damage the DNA in these cancerous cells and forcibly cause cell death. The problem with this treatment is the collateral damage, as it can also harm nearby healthy or regular cells due to the difficulty it has in targeting specific cells. More modern advancements have improved our precision by using systems guided by computers that can shape and control the dose of radiation. This is known as flash radiotherapy. However, this does not fully remove the risk of damaging normal cells and can potentially cause a secondary form of cancer to arise. This treatment itself can also create mutations through the radiation that can cause health problems in the future. Radiation therapy has two different ways of being used for treatment, one for getting rid of the cancer in a patient, and the other for symptom control in later stage cancer's development. For late stage cancers, the median survival is around 10 to 14 months, while early stage cancers have rates of 90% making it to the 3-year mark, and around 15 to 25% of patients experience severe side effects along all stages of this treatment. Chemotherapy is a completely different form of treatment. It involves using strong drugs that target rapidly dividing cells through interfering in their cell division, DNA replication, or by directly damaging the DNA itself. This makes it highly effective against treating widespread, non-tumor-based cancers such as leukemia, but it does come with its drawbacks. Chemotherapy can cause a multitude of health issues, such as hair loss, nausea, a weakening of immune system functions, and damage to organs. In certain cases, chemotherapy actually is not the solution to leukemia, as it has been linked to causing leukemia in patients due to the increased risk of mutation rates it can produce. Chemotherapy by itself has a median overall survival of 10 to 13 months, a 45% 1-year survival rate, and 50% of patients experiencing severe side effects. Both of these treatments were being developed in a time where treatment options were highly limited and surgery was not as advanced as today. This helped contribute to why they were adopted so rapidly, despite a limited understanding of the long-term side effects these treatments could cause. Over time, research has revealed that both of these treatments can lead to issues such as organ damage, cognitive impairment, immune system problems, deficiencies, and an increased risk of additional cancers. This all highlights how a movement must be made towards safer and more targeted approaches to limit these side effects. More modern treatments, such as immunotherapy and gene-specific targeted therapies, represent this shift towards new and more precise methods of targeting and fighting off cancers. Immunotherapy works by enhancing our body's own immune system to help recognize and destroy cancer cells using techniques such as monoclonal antibodies, immune cell modification, and cancer vaccines. While it has shown promising long-term results in certain cancers with fewer side effects than these traditional treatments, it is not effective for all forms of cancer, and it has been linked to causing immune overreactions and organ damage, though the chance is much lower in comparison to chemotherapy and radiation therapy. These certain forms of cancer that immunotherapy is able to combat is melanoma, lung cancer, bladder cancer, kidney cancer, and certain blood cancers that depend on immune-sensitive pathways. However, recent advancements have allowed immunotherapy to be used in tandem with chemotherapy, which allows for a less damaging dose to be used. This combination has become a first-line treatment for advanced non-small cell lung cancer, otherwise known as NSCLC patients. This form of lung cancer contributes to 85% of the 2 million cases reported each year. This statistic is followed by 1.8 million deaths per year. It has been observed that these advancements and other treatments have not only given safer alternatives, but also changed and updated the ways we can use chemotherapy. PubMed Central states, quote, "A trend towards lower mortality and higher survival rates was recently observed, especially for NSCLC patients. This improvement was mainly driven by introduction of novel treatment modalities and treatment of all stages of NSCLC. In general, discovery of oncogenic driver alterations and development of targeted therapies over the last 2 decades substantially contributed to these improvements," end quote. Statistics back up the claims, as immunotherapy by itself has a median overall survival of 19.4 months, with a 64% 1-year survival rate and 18% of the patients experiencing severe side effects. The combination of chemo and immunotherapy, otherwise known as chemo-IT, had a median overall survival of 21.3 months, a 75% 1-year survival rate, and 26% of patients experiencing severe side effects. This is an improvement on almost every statistic. Gene-specific targeted therapy focuses on specific modules or proteins that cancer cells rely on to grow and survive. These drugs are designed to interfere with these specific targets that are either inside the cancer cell or located on its surface. While this approach greatly reduces the chance of damaging healthy cells when compared to chemotherapy or radiation therapy, it requires a lot of knowledge of the specific characteristics of cancer cells. This treatment may also not work for certain cancers that can adapt to new conditions or that lack those specific targets. It can also cause issues such as fatigue, digestive issues, and like immunotherapy, a smaller chance of organ complications. The certain types of cancer that we have found ways to fight off using this treatment include breast cancer, lung cancer, colorectal cancer, chronic myelogenous leukemia, otherwise known as CML, and melanoma. For targeted therapy, the median survival is the second highest, from 38 to 48 months. However, the severe side effects usually affect 30 to 40% of patients, but most of these are classified as skin rashes or diarrhea. Other forms of treatment, such as hormone therapy, can be effective for specific hormone-dependent cancers by blocking the signals that are required for those cancers to grow. The forms of cancer that it can treat is breast cancer, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, thyroid cancer, and prostate cancer. But much like all treatments, it comes with its limitations. Short-term side effects can range from nausea and fatigue to hair loss and changes in libido. Long-term side effects include osteoporosis and raised risk of cardiovascular issues. Future advancements have already proven to limit some of these side effects, as the chance of developing a secondary cancer for this treatment has been lowered to an almost insignificant rate. This only reinforces the idea that no singular form of treatment is perfect, and that taking care of cancer requires a multitude of different approaches that take the individual patient's needs in mind. For hormonal therapy, the median survival is the highest of all forms of treatment I have discussed, at above 60 months, with a 5-year survival rate of 80 to 90%, and only around a 10% rate of severe side effects. However, these tend to be more chronic, such as bone loss or hot flashes. Overall, cancer remains a complex and challenging disease because it has failures in both the body's natural system that regulate these cells and multiple external factors that also affect them. A cancer cell's ability to spread, adapt, and mimic normal cells makes it difficult to eliminate without causing harm to healthy cells, and thus increase the risk of another cancer forming. This is why prevention, through keeping a healthy lifestyle and making good choices, remains the most reliable strategy to staying cancer-free, even if it cannot remove the risk entirely. All of our modern advancements in this medical research continue to improve our treatment options and are helping make a shift from a broad, aggressive approach to a more precise and targeted approach that seeks to maximize the effectiveness of the treatment while at the same time limiting the amount of harm caused to healthy cells. These traditional treatments, such as chemotherapy and radiation therapy, still play a crucial role in certain cancers that are widespread and aggressive, while newer revelations such as immunotherapy, gene-specific targeted therapy, and techniques that are evolving old treatments such as flash radiotherapy offer a safer and more effective approach to taking care of cancer. In the end, cancer is not just a single battle, but rather an ongoing fight that requires both prevention and innovation to target. While it may not be possible to completely eradicate cancer, living a healthier lifestyle, improving your understanding of where cancer begins, and technological advancements are slowly transforming the idea of cancer from a disease that poses an imminent threat to your life to an easier to manage condition. All of these advancements give hope that future progressions will continue to reduce its impact and improve overall outcomes for patients worldwide. Thank you.
We'll begin with faculty questions.
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is about the gene-specific targeting therapy that you talked about. And just to take a step back for a second, with the advent of the discovery of the human genome and the full sequencing of the human genome, some of these technologies have kind of become possible all of a sudden. That started like in the 2000s. My question is, a lot of the research that's given us things like gene-specific targeted therapy brings about new moral considerations as well. So like a person who finds out that they have mutations to the BRAF gene, which ultimately means they're going to have developed breast cancer, you can send off to these companies like 23andMe or Ancestry DNA, or the ones that will run bits of your genome and give you information about it. Brings up some interesting questions, so that people who find out information like a gene that they have that's going to mean that they're going to develop cancer, not only have to deal with that information ahead of time, or that they maybe have a chance to, but even their family members who might also be implicated or may also realize they probably also have the gene have to deal with this information. So my question is, as the technology progresses, we move in the direction of maybe having possible therapies available, but it also comes with some baggage. Do I want to know, and how much do I want to know, and do I want to change my lifestyle? So I was just curious if you could speak to what your sense is, about where we are. Is pushing the envelope with these advances in genetic technology ultimately giving us new cures, and is that the best possible direction? Or does it also bring about certain situations that we might have to realize we have to deal with, like say a person who has to deal with the fact that I might develop this? It's almost like a death sentence.
Thank you for your question. So, for future advancements in therapies, I think the main goal is to try and limit the amount of severe side effects that these patients feel, either short-term or long-term. And so, when getting diagnosed for cancer, or like you said, reading genes to see if a certain cell will develop cancer in a certain amount of time, I believe that's a good advancement to have as in stage 0 of cancer, which just means that there are abnormal cells present but have not spread to nearby tissue. That is the easiest form to treat with any form of cancer. And with all the new therapies and treatments that we have from these advancements, it gives more options for patients to decide, because different forms of treatment will have different adverse health effects on patients. And so giving more options and more choices and making it easier to decide on a case-by-case basis would be the best possible outcome.
Thanks. And do you think that we should be advocating for more information in terms of our own genetics to find out things like cancer maybe in our future? Or I guess, how would you counsel a person who was trying to figure out like what they should do? Like, should I find out whether I have a gene present in my body that's going to mean that I have this cancer? If that's a dilemma they might face, what would you counsel them to do?
I think it would be a good idea for them, in order for them to go and try and figure out if they're going to eventually have cancer in the future, because it's easiest to treat if you already have prior knowledge of it. Because like for radiation therapy, it had a 90% of patients that received it made it 3 years after treatment in early stages of cancer. And so whenever you figure out that you're going to have cancer and you realize you can do something about it early, it makes it much easier to treat than rather if you find out too late.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mawasa?
Thank you for your presentation, Kaden. Kaden, I'd like to know if in your research you found any correlation to people avoiding those treatments, such as immunotherapy, hormonal therapy, due to lack of access to them, whether it be financial through their veterans care, their Medicaid, limited by their insurances, limited to pay out of pocket, etc.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your question. So for my research in specific, I mainly use the idea that insurances would cover the expenses for these treatments. These treatments are expensive to develop and further into more advanced things, but in order to get past that threshold, it would mean that those treatments would become more widely available and cheaper in general for patients worldwide.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Kaden. I'm wondering, in your research, AI is a big thing that's happening now. What role is AI playing in either developing treatments or in being used in actual treatments? Have you come across any research regarding that?
Thank you for your question. I didn't look too much into how AI would affect it. I was mainly worrying about what specific forms of treatments were arising, whether by AI or not, and how it was affecting rates of severe side effects and survival overall for cancer patients. Please.
Thank you for your presentation, Kaden. It sounds like you learned a lot, and I think that a topic like yours that's focused heavily on the hard sciences can be difficult to approach. So I'm wondering if there was something in your experience here or outside of school that helped you approach this topic and persevere in your research.
Thank you. So I think the thing that in school helped me the most go about figuring out this topic was my speech and debate class I took sophomore year. It helped me take information from articles that I could actually use and translate into a speech, and it also taught me how to translate it into a speech properly.
Thank you.
Mr. Cortez?
Thanks, Kaden. So Ms. Melanson, in her question, mentioned some of the economic factors that may limit some of these alternate treatments. I wonder if there's anything else that you came across in your research that would limit either the availability or the desirability to utilize these treatments more frequently.
Thank you for your question. So some of the things for cancer that would possibly deter us from trying to further our research in it would be things with the cancer itself, like how many cancers have specific genes, not genes, proteins, or it survives off hormones. Those can all determine which forms of treatment can work effectively for it. And so, like I said, for hormonal therapy, immunotherapy, targeted therapy, they only work for certain forms of cancers. But some of those are some of the most common forms of cancer. And so I think for advancements in those, that would be most crucial in treating cancer in the long run. But there's many other forms of therapy that would not make a significant change depending on how advanced we get with it.
Thank you.
Are there any senior questions?
James?
Thank you for your presentation, Kaden. You're talking about all this research and funding that's going into cancer and eye research, and I was wondering, is there a specific organization or country that's mainly spearheading this? Like, who is funding all this research?
Thank you for your question. So, in terms of the main countries that are furthering this cancer development, I believe it's the United States that leads it in every aspect. But I didn't do too much research into like which specific countries were trying which specific treatments and things like that.
Thank you, Kaden.